introduction, final product, website, get into all that stuff in a minute. To start, what is the project? Our project was aimed to collect air pollution data from neighborhoods/zip codes in the Columbus area in order to tie them back to topics such as wealth disparity, placism, and health risks. Overall, this presentation and project was much more of a informative, kind of empowerment kind of thing of where we're going to go out and get into this topic that is very deep-rooted, very complicated to attack, and I know when I first heard about placism, it was something that was like a little confusing to me at first. So the idea to get information, analyze it, do research based on it, draw some conclusions, and then publish that, make it readily available for people that may not be able to understand what that was on their own. How we did that to start was a final product of a website. Over here you can see our home page of a website. Up top, it is a very user-friendly website in which this map here has some points on it, in which if you click them, you'll go to the zip code, in which data about the racial mix of it, economic background, what pollution data we got from it, all that kind of stuff is given about it in a very linear format. Just you can read it, you can see it, you can identify it for yourself. The whole point, again, was to allow people to come to this and just explore this information for themselves. I think we did about 10 points worth of data. Some of them are considered the same zip code area, which is why there's not 10 points on there. We also have a DIY area in which if you wanted to do it yourself, there are steps that are laid out for you. Our final report is on the website, so if you want to read very much in depth as to how we did it, you can go to that right there. Top right is the website link. Moving forward, this would be an example of a thing that you'd click. You would click on here, you'd see the pollution data collected, you'd see the diversity of the area, the population, economic data, including the poverty rate, average household income, and then employment. And then you can compare and contrast. That was the whole point of trying to do this. You can see that right up here we have Powell, and then down here we have Whitehall. You can see that there's difference in diversity, the difference in the pollution data that was collected, population, economic data, all that kind of stuff. Again, it is very much for users to be able to come and very clearly see with their own eyes what the differences are between these zip codes. The process of collecting this data was first we had to create a sensor, then collect that data, then analyze the data and draw conclusions from it, then publish it into the website form. Here's some of the technology we used. I'll let you guys read through the boring stuff if you're really interested in that, but basically we had an Arduino in which we hooked up an air sensor to, dust sensor, something we got off of Amazon. The Arduino was something we got as well. It was always a very low, sub $100 project. We wanted to upscale it. Obviously we could buy more expensive, more high quality stuff, but for the sake of the project time and our own budgets, we went ahead and with the lower stuff. We hooked them up, and the Arduino itself, we also had code that we took off a project website that we learned, modified to our own specifications and needs. We'll go ahead and go to the next page to kind of show what would happen with the program. With the program, we would have dust concentration come out in the form of micrograms per meter squared, which can also then be translated into ppm if you want to see the conversions of that. It's a quick Google search. We then took that, put that in a Excel, in which we were very easily able to collect the mean, median, variance, and then we were able to see the results from that. Here's the Arduino that we used. Results. We believe that the results were quite clear in basically there was a huge deviation when it came to the data collected. So there would be much higher versus much lower concentration of pollution particles, mostly based off of a economic. So right here we have Dublin, Hilliard, Powell, and Delaware with low 90s or 80s for their pollution data. And then Columbus, this is more in-city. Whitehall, Black Lake Estates, Greenville, we're all greater than 100. Why? You simply need to look at the poverty rate and the average household income. For these ones, you can see it is less than 5% for the poverty rate. The income all averaged over 100,000 versus the other ones with much higher pollution. This would be greater than 15% poverty and less than 50K per average household. Why is that important? Well, to tie it back to what we were talking about earlier, we want to inform about a topic. We want to talk about placism, the health impact, and how that can affect, and you guys can learn from that. The health impact is pretty apparent. The higher pollution, the higher the health risk, the more death, early death, and children, people with existing diseases, elderly, and these low-income communities are all vulnerable to this when there's higher pollution data. I believe it was 6 million people a year die from poor air and pollution. We have a website down there if you'd like to read more about that. With the health impact, we connect that back to placism. We believe that these communities with lower income are places in which there's factories, there's output and deliberation of emissions in which they're being discriminated against is pretty much the point that we're trying to get to on that. If these lower income neighborhoods, as you can see through a picture that we were able to grab here, it's an easier place, cheaper land, you can put factories and stuff like that. And if you took AP Gov, AP US History, I'm sure an idea of gerrymandering might come up, which is a very old, deep-rooted thing that has continued to this day of taking lower income, which usually happens to be people of color, and concentrate them into neighborhoods that are frequently disempowered and discriminated against in these ways. Moving forward, people of color in the United States are exposed to more polluted air. These harmful substances in the air usually come from factory emissions, automobile exhaust, agricultural, and residential, and other sources. Moving forward, we would want to upgrade, empower, and expand this project. Expand. This is limited data. We obviously had to drive to all these locations amidst busy school. There's only so many of us that could go out and collect. We only had one Arduino and one sensor. Moving forward, we would want to upgrade as well. Connecting these two, we'd want better equipment, able to put more time and effort and even more money into this project to allow it to be more than just 10 data points in the Columbus area, but expand to maybe Ohio, maybe Midwest, maybe even more. And then empower. As I mentioned at the beginning, this was very much a project of information. So it would start with you guys. This is a public website which anyone can go. It's hosted on something called NeoCities, which is a free website hoster, and at this time of talking about this, there's already been 500 unique clicks on it from wherever. So obviously, the more people that see it, hopefully some people are getting impacted by that. So again, moving forward, we hope to inspire more people to join us, continue informing and getting this more spread out to people. But yeah, that's our presentation. Any questions?